Why your mind never rests. Your mind won't stop. Part 1. When was the last time your mind was completely quiet? Not while you were sleeping. Not while you were watching television. Not while you were scrolling through your phone. I mean truly quiet. No replaying yesterday. No worrying about tomorrow. No imaginary conversations. No endless list of things you should have done. Just silence. For many people, that moment has almost disappeared. You finish work, but work follows you home. You put your phone down, but your mind keeps scrolling. You get into bed, and suddenly every problem you've ignored all day comes back. You remember something embarrassing you said 5 years ago. You think about an email you haven't answered. You wonder whether your boss is disappointed in you. You worry about money. You worry about your health. You worry about your children. You worry about tomorrow. And then you look at the clock. It's 2:13 in the morning. You tell yourself to stop thinking, but your mind doesn't listen. Imagine a man named David. David was 42 years old. He had a good career, a family, a comfortable home, and everything that was supposed to make life feel secure. But David couldn't remember the last time he felt mentally rested. Every morning, before his feet touched the floor, he checked his phone. Emails. News. Messages. Markets. Social media. By the time he arrived at work, his mind had already processed hundreds of pieces of information. At work, he jumped from one task to another. At lunch, he checked his phone. On the drive home, he thought about work. At dinner, he occasionally checked notifications under the table. And at night, he told himself he deserved a little entertainment. So he opened his phone. One video became 10. 10 became 30. And eventually, exhaustion forced him to put it down. But exhaustion isn't the same as peace. One night, David sat alone in his car after arriving home. The engine was off. The house was quiet. His phone was in his hand. And for the first time, he noticed something. He wasn't tired because he had done too much. He was tired because his mind had never stopped. The ancient Stoics understood this problem long before smartphones existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote about protecting the mind from unnecessary disturbance. Epictetus taught that we suffer not simply because things happen, but because of the judgments we make about them. The world may be noisy, but we don't have to let the noise become our identity. Welcome to Timeless Quotes TV. If you enjoy Stoicism, psychology, philosophy, and timeless wisdom for living with greater clarity, consider subscribing and joining us on this journey. Because today we're going to explore a difficult question. Why does your mind never rest? And what can you do when your own thoughts become the source of your exhaustion? Part 2. Your mind was designed to solve problems. That's one of its greatest strengths. But it can also become one of your greatest weaknesses. Your brain sees a problem and wants to solve it. Then it sees another. Then another. And another. The problem is that modern life rarely gives your brain a clear signal that the work is finished. There is always another email, another notification, another bill, another headline, another message, another decision, another thing you could improve. So the mind stays active, even when the body is exhausted. Then comes overthinking. Overthinking feels like productivity. You are thinking about the problem, so you feel like you're doing something about it. But thinking and solving are not the same thing. You can think about the same problem for 3 hours without moving 1 inch closer to a solution. You replay the conversation. What did they mean? Should I have said something different? What if they are angry? What if I made a mistake? What if something goes wrong tomorrow? The mind creates a future problem, then tries to solve it before it happens. This is exhausting because uncertainty cannot be completely eliminated. You can prepare for tomorrow, but you cannot control tomorrow. You can plan your career, but you cannot guarantee the outcome. You can love someone, but you cannot control what they feel. You can take care of your health, but you cannot control every event that happens to your body. The Stoics understood this distinction. They separated what is within our control from what is outside it. Your choices are within your control. Your effort is within your control. Your response is within your control. But the final outcome is not always yours. The moment you demand certainty from an uncertain world, your mind becomes restless. And technology has made this even worse. Your phone can give you information about almost anything instantly. But information doesn't always create peace. Sometimes it creates more questions. One headline leads to another. One search leads to another. One notification leads to another. Your brain never receives the message. You can stop now. So perhaps your mind doesn't need more information. Perhaps it needs permission to stop. Part 3. The first timeless lesson is this. You don't have to answer every thought. A thought is not an instruction. It is not a command. It is not necessarily true. It is simply something your mind produced. You can notice a thought without following it. You can hear your mind say, "What if something goes wrong?" And simply answer, "I don't know." Then return to the present. The second lesson is that uncertainty is not an emergency. Your mind often treats uncertainty as danger. But not knowing what will happen tomorrow doesn't mean something bad is happening today. You don't need to solve tomorrow tonight. Sometimes the most peaceful sentence you can say is, "I will deal with it when it happens." The third lesson is that attention is a form of energy. Whatever you repeatedly give your attention to becomes stronger in your experience. If you constantly focus on problems, your world begins to feel like one giant problem. If you constantly consume outrage, your world begins to feel hostile. If you constantly compare yourself, your life begins to feel inadequate. Your attention shapes your reality. The fourth lesson is that silence is a skill. Most people don't struggle with silence because silence is painful. They struggle because silence reveals how noisy their minds have become. When the phone stops, when the music stops, when the television stops, when nobody is talking, you finally hear your own thoughts. At first, that can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort isn't danger. It may simply be the beginning of awareness. The fifth lesson is that peace requires boundaries. Your mind cannot rest if everything has access to it. Not every message needs an immediate answer. Not every opinion deserves your attention. Not every news story requires your emotional reaction. Not every problem belongs to you. You are allowed to close the door. You are allowed to put down the phone. You are allowed to stop working. You are allowed to say, "Not tonight." The goal isn't to eliminate thought. The goal is to stop becoming a prisoner of every thought that appears. That is the beginning of mental freedom. Part 4. Now consider the world we are entering. Artificial intelligence can generate information faster than any human being can consume it. It can write, summarize, analyze, predict, recommend, create, and respond instantly. That sounds like freedom. But there is a paradox. The more information becomes available, the harder it may become to decide when enough is enough. For most of human history, information was scarce. Today, attention is scarce. AI can produce 10 answers in seconds, but you still have to decide which answer deserves your attention. It can generate 100 ideas, but you still have to decide which idea is worth pursuing. It can help you work faster, but it cannot tell you when to stop working. That decision remains human. Social media creates another problem. The algorithms are designed to keep you engaged. There is always another video, another story, another argument, another notification, another person to compare yourself with. Your brain was never designed to process an endless stream of information every waking hour. Yet we often carry the entire world in our pockets. Wars, politics, markets, celebrity scandals, other people's opinions, other people's achievements, other people's problems. Then we wonder why we cannot sleep. The Stoic response is surprisingly modern. Guard your mind. Be selective about what you allow inside. Do not confuse access with importance. Just because information is available doesn't mean you need it. Just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean you need to hear it. Just because something is happening somewhere in the world doesn't mean you need to emotionally experience it every minute. In the age of AI, one of the greatest forms of intelligence may be knowing when to stop consuming information. Because the future may not belong only to the people who know the most. It may belong to the people who can remain calm enough to think clearly. Part 5. So how do you make your mind rest? Start with something simple. Create an ending. If your workday has no ending, your brain never receives the signal that work is finished. Choose a time when work stops. Close the laptop. Put the phone away. Walk outside. Change your physical environment. Give your brain a transition. Second, create a worry window. If something is bothering you, write it down. Don't force yourself to solve it immediately. Tell yourself, I will think about this tomorrow at a specific time. This teaches your brain that the problem has not been ignored. It has simply been scheduled. Third, stop using your phone as emotional medication. When you're uncomfortable, don't automatically reach for your screen. Sit with the feeling. Take a walk. Breathe. Look outside. Let the discomfort exist without immediately distracting yourself from it. Fourth, practice doing one thing at a time. Eat without scrolling. Walk without checking notifications. Talk to someone without looking at your phone. Read without switching between 5 applications. Your mind becomes calmer when it doesn't have to constantly switch contexts. And finally, practice asking one question. Is this thought useful right now? Not. Is this thought true? Not. Can I solve everything? Simply. Is this useful right now? If it is useful, act. If it isn't, let it pass. You don't have to fight your mind. You simply have to stop feeding every thought with your attention. Part 6. If I wanted to build a calmer mind, I would start with a few simple tools. First, keep a notebook beside your bed. When a thought appears at night, write it down. You don't need to solve it. You just need to remove it from your working memory. Second, use a simple meditation timer. Start with 5 minutes. Sit still. Breathe naturally. Notice your thoughts, and let them pass without following them. Third, use technology to protect your attention instead of stealing it. Screen time limits, notification controls, website blockers, focus modes. Do not disturb. These aren't productivity tricks. They are boundaries for your mind. And if you use AI every day, give it a specific role. Let AI help organize information. Let it summarize. Let it help you plan. But don't let it become another endless source of stimulation. Sometimes the smartest question to ask an AI system isn't, "What else should I do?" It is, "What can I stop doing?" Finally, return to the Stoic practice of reflection. At the end of the day, ask, what was within my control today? What wasn't? What deserves my attention tomorrow? What can I release tonight? For questions, a quieter mind. You don't need a perfect meditation room. You don't need to escape society. You need boundaries between yourself and the endless noise asking for your attention. Part 7. Let's return to David. The problem was never that he had too many responsibilities. It was that he had forgotten how to stop carrying them. One evening, he made a small decision. After dinner, he put his phone in another room. He didn't check his email. He didn't open social media. He didn't watch the news. He simply sat outside. At first, his mind became louder. He thought about work, bills, problems, tomorrow. But he didn't react to the thoughts. He simply watched them. And slowly, the noise became quieter. Nothing outside him had changed. His job was still there. His responsibilities were still there. The problems hadn't disappeared. But for the first time in a long time, David wasn't fighting his own mind. That's the lesson. Peace doesn't always come from removing problems. Sometimes it comes from changing your relationship with them. You will always have something to think about, something to worry about, something to improve, something to solve. That is part of being human. The goal isn't to create an empty mind. The goal is to create a mind that knows when to let go. So tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what am I still carrying that I don't need to carry tonight? Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe it's someone else's opinion. Maybe it's a problem you cannot solve until morning. Put it down. Not forever. Just for tonight. Tomorrow will still be there. And when tomorrow comes, you can meet it with a rested mind instead of an exhausted one. Tell us in the comments. What is the one thought that keeps your mind awake the most? Work? Money? Relationships? The future? Or something you simply cannot let go of? Your answer may help someone else realize they are not alone. If this video helped you understand your mind a little differently, subscribe to Timeless Quotes TV. Here, we explore Stoicism, psychology, self-mastery, inner peace, and timeless wisdom for living clearly in a world that never seems to stop talking. And in the next episode, we'll explore another fear that quietly controls millions of people. Why you fear change more than failure. Because sometimes, the thing keeping you awake isn't the problem itself. It's your fear of what might happen next. Until then, you don't have to solve everything tonight. You don't have to answer every message. You don't have to understand tomorrow. And you don't have to believe every thought your mind produces. Close the screen. Take a breath. Let the day end. Your mind has been working hard enough for tonight. Let it rest.